Hello everyone, my name is Lisa Rodriguez and I'm going to be covering Chapter 6, which deals with interpersonal communication, and specifically I'm going to be talking about the conflict management theory. So first off, let's start by talking about what interpersonal communication is. It occurs between two or more people whose lives mutually influence and impact each other's. We experience interpersonal communication in many areas of our lives, including academics, personal context, professional context. The list honestly goes on and on. So I'm going to start by talking about how interpersonal communication enhances our relationships. Effectively communicating allows a good basis for a long and positive relationship within our lives in every context. It allows us to essentially get things done and communicate what we need and expect from the other person within the relationship, as well as satisfy their wants and their needs from the relationship. Maintaining relationships requires us to communicate our needs to the other person, and interpersonal communication is going to allow our needs to be known by the other person and project ourselves in the relationship. Our relationship cultures are developed by using interpersonal communication and the schemata, which is essentially how people think and analyze information that we obtain within society and our own cultures. So then I'm also going to be talking about another important concept in interpersonal communication, which is interpersonal communication competence. Which represents our ability to communicate effectively within our relationships. This will then tie into our relationship cultures that are established through communication and are highly influenced through societal norms. One of the many popular ones is going to be the DTR talk, which is essentially defining the relationship talk, and it's more of a personal context use term because it allows us to communicate casually with the other person what the relationship is and the function of the relationship essentially. So moving on, specifically we're going to be talking about the interpersonal conflict theory. This is an important term that deals with verbal and nonverbal conflict that reflects the scarcity of resources in a relationship or can analyze and showcase opposing viewpoints. So, interpersonal conflicts happen in all of our lives. For example, I did not see eye to eye with a friend concerning a certain area of politics, and my friend became passive aggressive when we would hang out or talk about a certain topic. So, that was her way of dealing with conflict. So, I'm going to talk about five, which are the general styles of dealing with conflict. And they're just going to be pertaining and kind of catering to your own personal experience with conflict and how you feel comfortable addressing conflict in your relationships. So, the first style is going to be competing. And this is going to be a style in which there's more concern for yourself personally, and there's a low concern for the other person. So that was the case in the scenario that I mentioned before with my friend, because she failed to recognize and respect my opinions, and it negatively impacted the relationship. So a specific definition of this could be trying to win the argument at whatever cost within the relationship. The second one is going to be avoiding. So this is a style where you show low concern for yourself and the other person. And a really good example could be like a husband and wife who are avoiding problems within their own relationship and pretend to, think that everything is okay rather than working through and addressing certain issues. This is probably one of the most common ones because I feel like a lot of people don't like confrontation and they'd rather work through the issue themselves rather than talking to the other person within the relationship. Another really important one is going to be accommodating, and this is a style in which you show a low concern for your own feelings and a high concern for other people. This is a really common one that I also use personally because I tend to sacrifice my feelings or my own needs in a relationship if I feel like the other person's needs are more important than mine. So, um, this is probably a common one in like a romantic context or a personal one when you don't want to like offend the other person or you don't want to make them feel uncomfortable within the relationship. And unfortunately, I have had a firsthand experience with this type of conflict style in a romantic context, and it ended up being a toxic trait on both of our ends, which ultimately ended the relationship. So it really is not a good way of handling conflict, but personally, I do find myself using it. The fourth one is going to be compromising. So this is going to be a style in which you show a moderate concern for yourself and a little bit of concern about the conflict or the relationship. Essentially, you're going to give up something that you want or need from the relationship, but in turn, you're going to receive maybe partial of something else that you want from the relationship in order to kind of trade off with what the other person wants and needs. This is really going to be about pleasing the other person, but also getting what you want, or at least something that you want out of the relationship. A really common one that I thought of was kind of like friends with benefits, and it's kind of like sacrificing what maybe the other person wants, but still getting something that you both mutually want. So that was just kind of a really personal one that I thought kind of really fit the category of compromising because it's pretty common in this day and age. The last one, and the one that is probably my number one used in my personal life, is going to be collaborating. And this is going to be a situation in which the conflict is resolved by showing concern for both parties in the relationship and addressing the conflict head on and working through it mutually. So, an example of this could be parents working together to figure out how to handle a troubled teen. It's actually a really good, I feel like, a really good style of dealing with conflict. I think a lot of people could benefit from using it more. But conflict management occurs in all of our lives, and I find myself using the collaborating style, like I said, the most, especially in my work environment. I'm a part of a marketing campaign, and we work together and we collaborate in order to deliver certain products and services for our membership of, the credit union. So, in conclusion, I hope that this made a lot of sense and maybe helped you understand some terms better. Managing conflict is conducted using the five different styles that I mentioned, and the techniques used to help us to develop interpersonal communication and communicate more effectively. Managing and responding to emotions will help us to analyze the situation and provide a basis for handling the emotions of other people and ourselves, especially when those emotions are tied into the conflict. That way you can better understand where they're coming from. Interpersonal communication plays a role in how we interact with people in different contexts, personal, academic, civic, like I mentioned earlier. The list could go on. And it helps us to establish positive relationships and cultivate our own understanding and broaden our perspective. By analyzing our own conflict management tendencies, we could then be able to apply different styles to different contexts to better communicate our thoughts, emotions, and expectations of the relationship and kind of cater it to where we feel we could benefit from it the most. Thank you for listening, and I hope this helped you review some key concepts from Chapter 6 and the conflict management theory. Bye.